Washington officials are hoping the state will learn a few lessons from California's high-speed rail project. Here with more on this is the Center Square's Washington reporter, TJ Martinell. TJ, bringing high-speed rail to Washington state has been in the works for a while. What is the background and the vision here?
So the vision is having a bullet train, effectively a train that can go more than 200 miles per hour, that would connect Vancouver, BC with Seattle and Portland. And the idea is to better connect the region economically with businesses. And for some people, they see it as a way to solve the housing affordability crisis that's been going on in the region, where you could have somebody live out much further away than what's practical right now from, say, the Seattle area, and then they'd be able to live in a house that they can afford. And it's just if they live at the border near Vancouver, it's just an hour ride on the train. But it's this notion of just better connecting kind of the Cascadia bioregion.
Some officials are raising concerns about repeating the expensive mistakes that have plagued California's rail project. What are they hoping Washington will learn?
Well, they're hoping to learn not to take 19 years and billions of dollars to lay one track finally, which is what they did last month. And it's kind of become this a case study of how not to do something. And so and this has been in the works in California since 2006. And so granted, Washington State's been talking about this since 2016, so 9 years. And they still got a lot to do, but what they're hoping is once they get it started, that it's not going to go over budget. The costs aren't going to get out of control, and it's actually going to get done in a reasonable time frame. And what some Washington State Department of Transportation officials are saying is that what they're doing differently is they're talking to relevant stakeholders to make sure everyone's on board with what they're doing and that they're aware of it and that they support it. They feel like that kind of collaboration and partnerships were not done in California. They're also looking at places like Texas Central, which is a high-speed rail line obviously in Texas. The difference is, though, they have far fewer issues to deal with because Washington's, the Cascadia high-speed rail line, it goes through not just two states, but it goes through two different countries. So there's a lot of logistical challenges.
So the project still has some hurdles to clear before it even begins. What's the outlook?
Well, right now they're doing a service development plan. And really one of the big questions is, where's the money going to come from? And it was originally conceived as a private-public partnership between major companies and the different government entities involved. The other issue is once they got to develop and design a plan, they've got to potentially acquire the land. They got to decide whether this thing's ever going to go underground or not, how it's going to be able to withstand, say, earthquakes or be able to, just be resilient against that. They're also going to have to go through a ton of environmental review processes, or also there's a new state law that deals with environmental justice and things like that. So there's also, if there's any state laws regarding equity, like they're doing with the I-5 bridge between Portland and Vancouver, in Washington State, that project they've been having a huge discussion about equity and what that means. So this is going to be one of the challenges that they're going to have, is you're going to have a lot of different potential stakeholders who are going to have different priorities for this project and different concerns and different things that are important to them more so than others. So that's going to be, and they haven't even gotten to that point yet. And it's been 9 years since they first conceived of this. And so there's a lot of big questions that have yet to be answered on this project. And so it's not entirely certain whether this rail line will ever materialize. And if it does, how many years is it going to be?
And would this replace existing Amtrak rail lines?
No, and that's what's interesting is they're also going to want to maintain the Amtrak Cascades, which goes all the way from Vancouver, BC down to Eugene, Oregon. And so that means that they're going to have to build an entirely new line. They can't use the existing railroad tracks because it's not capable of handling a train going more than 200 miles per hour. Their trains don't go anywhere near that speed. So they're going to have to build a new rail line. They're going to have to get either, easements or right-of-ways. And it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to bring in new passengers for the high-speed rail line without taking passengers away from the Amtrak line.
Well, TJ, thank you for your insights on this story. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.